The research question for this study was, do microhabitat characteristics influence bat activity and species richness? This study was conducted at Valley International Prep High School. It is a charter school in Northridge, California. The site on the west, titled Native Garden, was about 400 feet from the site on the east, titled Chem Building. The native garden consisted mostly of an open field. There were no street lamps around. There was a native garden around the corner with host plants for a lot of insects. The microphone was attached to the roof overhang for the building. Some obstacles nearby could be the window, the wall of the building, the cement sidewalk, the driveway. Here we have the chem building. The microphone was fixed to an umbrella. Underneath, we had student picnic tables and a lot more cement. There was a grassy patch, but not as big as the open field. There were street lamps at this site and a lot more smaller trees. So on the first night, we had a good amount of activity. We had 15 bat passes in the native garden, 18 for the chem, 2 species for the native garden, 3 species for the chem building. They showed up by the native garden a little bit before 8 p.m. near the chem building, a little bit after 8 p.m. And then there were detections up until around 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning. The next night, we had a little bit lower activity, only 7 bat passes in the native garden, 3 for chem, 1 species. The next night, very low activity with 2 bat passes in the native garden, 1 for chem. The next night, a little bit more activity, but still pretty low. And then our last night, a lot more activity again, 32 bat passes in the native garden, 39 for chem. We had 3 species detected in the native garden and 2 species detected for chem. And what was really cool is we had detections all the way through until around 4 a.m. in the morning. Here we have the most interesting bat call recorded. The first cool thing is that we have 2 feeding buzzes very close together, about 0.2 seconds apart. So it would be interesting to know if this was the bat going after the same moth. Another really interesting thing is that the specular echo is about 5 milliseconds from the original call. This would place the object around 0.86 meters away or 2.8 feet away. There was a window nearby. It was a little bit over this distance. Other possibilities could include reflections off of the roof or the building wall. This graph is showing bat activity, so number of bats per night. And we see the first night more for chem, the next 3 nights more for the native garden, and then the last night more for chem again. So there wasn't a consistent pattern in one site having more bat passes than the other site. This graph is also showing weather conditions, so there's a really strong correlation here with the warmer night having much higher bat activity. And then the lowest activity night, so April 26th, was the night that there was precipitation during the day. This graph is showing number of feeding buzzes, where the second night we had 2 feeding buzzes by the native garden only. The fourth night, 1 feeding buzz by the chem building. And then the last night, a lot more feeding buzzes. And again, this was on the warmest night. So not only more bad activity, but more feeding buzzes also. There were more for chem on the last night. So there is not a consistent difference again between one site having more feeding buzzes compared to the other. Here we see number of species. The first night we had 3 species for chem, a little bit more than the 2 species found at the native garden. By the last night, though, the native garden caught up. So by the end of sampling, there was an equal number of species richness detected at both sites, with 5 species detected at the school overall. So overall for bat activity, there is not a consistent difference in total number of bat passes or the number of feeding buzzes, and both sites show similar species richness. There was 1 species found at the campsite only, Lano, and another species found at the native garden only, Epfu. So more sampling could help determine if these indeed are unique for these sites or just because we have a low nights of sampling so far.